What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of Not A24, the podcast that takes a look at movies outside of the A24 library, literally 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are venturing to the eighth wonder of the world and seeking eternal health as we discuss 2021's Jungle Cruise.
Based on Disneyland's theme park ride, I can't believe they put that in the tagline for this movie. Whatever. Based on Disneyland's theme park ride, where a small riverboat takes a group of travelers through a jungle filled with dangerous animals and reptiles, but with a supernatural element. Interesting that they called out the reptiles. I get it, I guess, like crocodiles and stuff, but like that's interesting that you would add and reptiles into that for me.
Yeah, I mean, okay, spoilers for anyone that's listening to this.
Let's go hard, brother.
I mean, that dude's just made of snakes. But it feels weird to like put that in the log line, right? Like, not that it's a twist, but it's just like, all right, I guess I don't know.
Interesting. I mean, I'm sure, they probably felt like they needed to include it because then they'd be doing a disservice. Okay, this is the final entry into the Disney theme park ride movies. Jungle Cruise is going to be number 5. Ben, I think before we wrap this pod up, I think we should rank our 5 based on this theme. I think that would be really fun to do. Let's dive into this. We have 22 and a half minutes remaining on our clock. So we'll talk about the Jungle Cruise and kind of see what we thought. We haven't talked yet, which is really interesting. So directed by, is it Wame? Is that how you say? Wame Colette Serra, who is also directing Jungle Cruise 2 and also directed Black Adam. So my guy is big fan of Dwayne Johnson. I
realized there was a Jungle Cruise 2 coming out. Okay.
I don't know if anybody did, but that's what IMDb says, and that's where we're at.
All right.
This movie, Jungle Cruise, is starring Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt, Edgar Ramirez, Jack Whitehall, Jesse Plemons, and my fucking guy, Paul Giamatti. I didn't read the cast list for this before I watched this movie, and Paul Giamatti shows up, and, first Jesse Plemons shows up, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. And then Paul Giamatti shows up, and I was like, oh my God, like we're batting 100 in this movie so far with the cast. I did want to mention before we talk about general thoughts, last week on the pod, we talked about Haunted Mansion just absolutely shitting the bed at the box office, costing $150 million and only making like maybe 50 so far. Mm-hmm. Jungle Cruise cost $200 million to make. I don't even understand that. And again, it pulled in $220.9 million at the box office. So it flopped. It did come out in 2021, but regardless, absolutely just not great. Any thoughts on the box office, Ben? And then give me your spoiler thoughts for Jungle Cruise.
I mean, I'd be curious what that return rate is, considering it came out during COVID. Because, like,
sure.
I mean, it broke even, right? Like worldwide, sure. Like it made
without marketing, maybe. I don't know how much marketing would be put into this equation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I guess just production itself kind of broke even,
right?
Which wasn't happening a ton, I guess, during that time. Obviously, there's some exceptions like No Way Home and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's interesting. I don't remember this release. Was it one of those theater and at home the same day things?
Yeah, I think it was a day and date. I think it was a Disney Plus one as well. And like, truth be told, I got done with this movie and I was like, that would have been kind of fun to see in the theater. I don't know if I probably would have had a good time.
My experience with Indiana Jones is close to 0, but this felt like what I think Indiana Jones is, right? Like, how accurate is that?
That is the funniest thing to me. That is so funny. You haven't seen any of the Indiana Jones movies?
I've seen Crystal Skull.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's fair. It's an Indiana Jones movie, but you are totally correct, I will say.
Okay.
This is like, there were multiple times, especially when we meet like all of kind of like the tribes people near the end, near the beginning of the third act. That felt very like Temple of Doom to me. And this, like the map, like, oh, okay, cool. We got to decipher this riddle and this phrase. And then we find out where we're going on the map. And then, at the very end, like, it's not an arrowhead, it's a broken heart, and we have to restore it. That's very Indiana Jones. And I actually liked that. I thought that worked quite well for this movie. Mm-hmm. And it made it a lot of fun, honestly.
Yeah.
And I really had a blast with that aspect of things.
Yeah, I might be like the only person in the world to feel this way, but Jungle Cruise makes me want to check out Indiana Jones. I might be the only person that's ever said that sentence before.
What a take.
But it's true. I was like, oh,
you know
okay.
what movies got me into the Indiana Jones trilogy? Jungle Cruise. Banger.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a big Emily Blunt head, so yeah, I don't know. I like this movie. I had a good time. I think it worked really well. My super hot take that I'll save for the end is, I mean, it's up there with Pirates. I don't know what's gonna be number one. I'll put it that way.
I like that.
I'll put it that way. Because I think, listen, I love. I mean, this, and anyone who listens knows this. Like, I love a good dry sense of humor. I love a bad joke. I love all that kind of stuff. And I just got served that in spades from Rock. You know what I mean? And that's what's like, that's what The Ride is like. And that's one of the things that out of all these movies that we've done, that's probably my favorite thing that's been carried over from The Ride was those horrible jokes that they tell like on The Ride. It's like, it's the backside of water, it's just like,
it's the same as the front.
So dumb, but it's funny. Like, it's so dumb that it's funny. And I loved it. Like, this really just kind of catered to my wants and needs, so I had a blast with this. I'm kind of hit or miss on The Rock. Sometimes he can be too much, but I think this served him pretty well. His character story turns out to be a lot more interesting than initially thought, which was also kind of a fun little twist. And it was fun to give Emily Blunt kind of the action role. Also, as someone who really enjoys watching like 8 out of 10 or Countdown, like all these BBC game shows, like seeing Jack Whitehall here was like, oh, he's so funny to me. Like I love watching him on those shows, and he was fantastic here. Yeah, he's just like being, I don't know, like pretentious, and I don't even know if pretentious is the right word, but just like a lot, and he was doing it so well. So I was really stoked to see him. We talked about it, Giamatti. Talk about a character actor who just like
unbelievable.
The fact that we never got him again as the Rhino is like one of my biggest what ifs. Like, I want to see
too.
him.
It's a travesty.
Let him just go crazy and be a Russian Rhino. Let him cook it,
Let the man have an accent on screen. That's all I need.
Yeah, exactly. So he got to do that here without a doubt, which was fun. And then speaking of accents, we got Jesse Plemons doing his like best Werner Herzog, I think, the whole movie. And
so
I loved it so much. I thought it was hilarious. Like, he's just like, this accent is ridiculous, but you're committing to it. And I love that. Some of the humor in it, like him taking the orders from the bees and stuff like that.
Oh
and,
my God.
that kind of stuff was hilarious because everyone else was just looking at him like, are you taking orders from the bees? Like, no, don't be ridiculous. It's just, but it plays really well. CGI again, like, it was good. I still don't know. I don't know where $200 million goes for anything. So I have no idea.
That submarine, man.
This.
They had to buy a real submarine with a real missile.
Is that a fact? Is that like an IMDb trivia? Like, real missile needed.
Real missile needed $150 million.
That's Jungle Cruise, directed by Christopher Nolan. He's like, no, I need a real submarine.
I need to do this for real.
Yeah, I really need to drain this waterfall in Brazil. So yeah, I don't know. I had a blast. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I'm same with you. Like, I'm sad I missed this in theaters because it did have some set pieces that I think would have been really cool on the big screen.
Yeah.
But glad that I saw this.
Here's the thing. I'm going to ask you, do you have room for one more at the hot take table? Because I'm with you, dude.
There's plenty of room.
I'm with you. I do think it is on a Pirates level here. And I think Pirates has obviously something that Jungle Cruise doesn't, and that is nostalgia, and that is that like synonymous Johnny Depp is Captain Jack Sparrow effect, and I understand that. Not everything about this movie worked for me, namely like the romance aspect, especially towards the end. I thought it was exceptionally forced and didn't really work. And I thought Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson, their chemistry was very good when they were bantering, like when they were like friends back and forth. And I thought that worked really well, and didn't really see the need for it to cross that line and dive into something else. But we did get a very good like Jack Whitehall moment of like at the very end of like, you are both my world. And I thought that was so funny. You're right. Jack Whitehall, just literally so fun. Almost every single thing that he said was super funny. and really well done. He was a great, just like a great insertion of that certain kind of like energy and like I don't know, mood that like worked so well with Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt. I think Emily Blunt, like really, I guess not surprisingly, but like she is an incredible actor, and seeing her be an incredible actor in a Disney live action movie is really awesome. Like you just don't see that translate a lot of the time, so that was really exciting to see. Like I mentioned, their chemistry was really good. You said the jokes like the Jungle Cruise, and that is what I think that is what worked so well about this movie. It just did not shy away from the like bombastic nature of like Jesse Plemons is gonna do a Russian accent for the entire movie, and he's gonna fucking send it, and you're gonna enjoy it. And I did. I loved it. I loved it so much, especially like the way that he dies, and some of the things, some of the moments, like when he's firing the gun from the submarine and he's like singing along with the record that he put on. Is just really good stuff. And then you mentioned Paul Giamatti. I would have loved him in this movie more, and quite honestly, like I would just love a spinoff of like how he built his empire. I just want to know how he got all of his boats. The CGI,
because it was shady for sure.
Oh,
whatever
for sure. Well, and here's the thing: The Rock, or I guess Dwayne Johnson's character, the skipper, Frank is his name. He built this town, I guess, right? Like he did this, and so I'd be very curious to see how this character, Paul Giamatti's character, like comes in and starts to get up to really nefarious business. I think that would be a great Disney Plus show. I think that would be really fun. Can I ask you, before we do our True Cinema moments, this is the one thing that I groaned at, and I could not get on board with, was when Frank gets stabbed and then he survives, and I was like, oh wow, he survived. And then he's like, well, I'm 400 years old. And I was like, oh, God damn it. Like now we're getting way over our heads. Like we're getting mythical, and we're having a subplot that is just absolutely not needed. And it just felt like in that moment, I learned to accept it. And I understand that's a big plot point of the third act. So I was okay with it. But like in that moment, I was just like, oh no. Like I'm having such a good time. And it's just so surface level. We're just like on the river, having a blast, telling jokes. I don't want a 15-minute backstory watching Dwayne Johnson play his own father 400 years ago in the 1500s. Just didn't inspire me whatsoever. What was your initial thought about that? I think that was like the one thing for me where it just got a little too much.
I mean, I didn't have a problem with it because we'd already established it with all the bad guys that they were also that same age and they were able to come back to life, and they were even crazier because they were like made of bees and honey and mud and stuff, and like so I had bought into that. So when he said this, fair. I'm like, all right, cool, like I get it, the river water makes sense why he's like a boat, does the Jungle Cruise kind of thing. It did make me laugh, like because it also was a little bit of a callback to a joke he says at the beginning. He's like, that kid's 47. Like he looks 10, but he's 47, That
was funny.
And it's like, oh, I mean, I don't know that it works out because that kid wasn't cursed, but like, oh, it's a kind of a funny thing because you end up turning into be 400 years old. It felt like a combo of like Maui from Moana and then also Coco, like how the grandfather is tied into this other side, and you hear the backstory of how everyone's connected. So that's kind of like the combination I got out of this. But yeah, like I said, I had already bought into the guy made of snake. So when Dwayne was like, I'm 400, it's like, yeah, sure, man. Like, cool. Great.
You got it.
You're 400. Let's keep going,
I will say the pulling the sword out from him was pretty funny. I don't want to step on any toes for True Cinema, but I did have a good time with that bit. Do you want to go first for your True Cinema moment?
Sure. First True Cinema moment is taking the dagger out of Dwayne.
Let's go.
That was literally the first one for me because, I mean, like we talked about it, we get the banter between them, which felt supernatural. Like I didn't really buy the romantic side of it, like you said, and that bothered me at the end. I'm like, everyone doesn't have to end up being in love with each other. Like I would have enjoyed it more if they're just like, you know what, let's go on another adventure together. Like we work well together as a team or whatever, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be like we're in love. Like, no, like nothing about what you guys have done really makes sense. Like
Yeah.
for you guys to be in love. Like I don't get that. Also, he's like 400 years old. Like, how backed up is this dude? You know, what's he doing? Is he just like,
what's our logistics here?
yeah, is he just like rubbing one out into the river? You know, as he's like floating down? Like, I don't know what he's doing. So, but yeah, that's my first moment is the dagger because it was like just some of the best banter between the two of them for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And then you get a really good like McGregor is the character's name, but you get some really good like McGregor like one-liners in there as well. Like would you like to bite yeah, would you like to bite down on my stick? It's available. Yeah. After and that obviously takes place after they share a very meaningful conversation about McGregor like, you know, being on the other side and not being interested in having a preordained wife and not being interested in that world. So
yeah.
I thought that was pretty good, and that worked out well for me. Actually, I thought that kind of slowdown worked very nicely. The first true cinema moment for me is you're gonna have to help me maybe remember all of it, but it was really the first time we're introduced to Frank, and he is taking all of these people on his tour, very Jungle Cruise. Like we're just there for the Jungle Cruise, and he spits the orange juice joke, which is just like a 3-pronged joke. And he said he got fired from the orange juice factory. Something about they put the squeeze on him. Oh, but he got fired because he couldn't concentrate, and then they put the squeeze on him, right?
Yeah, they put the squeeze on him. Yeah,
and I thought I was just like, this guy is perfect for this role. He understood the assignment. He's delivering it 100. And he is just a blast to watch these jokes come from. So I thought that was a great tone setter for his character.
Well, you'll never believe what my second one is because it's that first like Jungle Cruise ride because it just lets people know like anybody who's been on that ride is going to recognize at least half of these jokes. And if not the actual jokes, like at least the tone of them. Like they're all going to kind of be like, okay, yeah, these are like just extremely bad dad jokes. But
and the audience reaction is what kind of seals the deal because a lot of people are like moaning and groaning and you're like, yes, we captured the Jungle Cruise essence.
This is exactly what we're going for here. So yeah, I enjoyed all of those jokes. Obviously, like they get sprinkled in throughout the rest of the movie too. Like even Emily Blunt gets one talking about the ship and it being like exhausted or something. I forget exactly what the joke is.
It's the car at the end where she's like, listening to your jokes are exhausting.
Oh yes.
And they both
they
both like look at each other and like, you did it.
You did it. It's good. So yeah, that's it. It's the first Jungle Cruise ride. Just set, like you said, it sets the tone for the rest of this movie. That's for me when I was like, okay, this is already going better than I thought. So
yes.
I'm buying in because I went into it a little skeptical. Like I was like, man, what? Like, why did they make a ride out of this or a movie out of this? You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. And then once I heard all that stuff, I was like, okay, at least whoever wrote this knew what they were doing. So I'm going to give it a chance.
I literally postponed watching this movie until today at work because I was like, I don't want to use a valuable night of like, I could watch a very good movie or I could watch Love Island with my wife or I could like do something fun when I might have to like drudge my way through 2 hours of Jungle Cruise. And yeah, just miraculously delighted at this movie. My second true cinema moment is Paul Giamatti, and it's a very specific moment that he does. Obviously he has an Italian accent, which is just incredible because it kind of goes in and out and it's lovely. He has a gold tooth, which is fucking awesome. It's so good. He was just like dress me up to the max for this role. In the very beginning, we get basically like a jaguar fight kind of thing. This is Frank's pet that ends up coming through and fights Frank in the bar. And this is to kind of get Emily Blunt's character to buy into his Jungle Cruise and his services, which I thought was kind of dumb, but it was okay. But the very specific moment is when this cat shows up and is like kind of moving around and praying and like figuring out where it's going to go. Paul Giamatti's character takes like a power defense stance and basically does this thing with his hands where he goes like, it's like the rock sign with like horns, but he like points it at the cat and he just like backs up and he goes like this. And I was like, my dude's fucking locked and loaded to fight this animal
He's
right
ready.
now, and he's gonna die. Like
Yeah.
it was so funny to me because like I just don't imagine that being in the script where it's like throw up a hand sign like this
Yeah,
and be a
yeah.
fucking weirdo. Paul Giamatti was just like, I'm gonna get weird, and I loved that one specific thing.
He nailed it. Yeah, that was perfect. Like this thing's gonna kill me, but I'm gonna poke its eyes out on the way down.
Exactly.
So it's like that's what that stance was all about. And then so the last one for me, again, it kind of goes to Frank, but it's when they're captured by the tribe, but
Okay.
we find out that it was all a setup. But this is mainly kind of like we've had a few of these where, you know, Frank is kind of, I don't know, pulled the rug under them or just lied to them.
I'm trying to
But this
swindle.
was like, yeah, exactly. But this was like one of the better ones, I think, and just getting the whole tribe involved. And I don't know. I liked the character establishment we got with him because it just kind of showed like he is willing to do whatever. And after like 400 years or whatever, like, yeah, he probably has worked out some pretty good schemes to get people to quit and just like take their money and be like, all right, cool. Yeah, we'll turn around now, that kind of a thing. So I like that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really the first time like the world felt very big and very open. I know we're traversing the Amazon on a
Yeah.
on a boat, but like that's when you just get this like really huge introduction into like a new kind of area, new type of people. Third one for me is we kind of mentioned it earlier. Jesse Plemons just fucking crushing his accent talking to these CGI bees was so fucking funny. Like I just want to fire it up on YouTube and watch it because he commits and he does it so good. It was very reminiscent of like his performance in Game Night where he was just like,
Yes.
I'm here and I'm going to go 100 miles an hour and I'm just going to
Yeah.
accept everything that comes my way. I can only imagine how hard that was to film talking to CGI bees. But that scene starts with him being like, we've got visitors, open the hatch and like let in the bees, which I think
It's
is
so
so
good.
funny. And he asks these bees and you mentioned like Axel, this person is like, can you ask the bees for coordinates? And he's like, don't be ridiculous, Axel. Don't be ridiculous. And then the scene ends. I thought it was so funny. And like, I just loved pretty much every moment with Plemons because he was so unhinged and really was like a great tie-in for this movie as like the villain. I thought it worked very well.
Yeah, 100%. I'm always happy to see Landry.
But he's dead, so we're not going to get him back in the other one.
I know, unfortunately. Curious
Yeah.
who we're going to get.
Tough. Okay, honorable mention real quick before we go. The very like almost one of the final lines is when the brother what was his name?
McGregor.
McGregor. He said he's explaining to the association again. He goes, "You can take your invitation, you can shove it up your association." I thought it was great. Those things never worked for me, and that one worked, which I loved. Would this movie fit in the A24 catalog? Not with that fucking budget.
No, not with that budget at all.
Next week on the Patreon pod, we're embarking on a new topic for the next 6 weeks, leading up to the release of a movie that both of us are very much anticipating. And this was your topic, so I'm going to let you decide. We have 40 seconds. How much do you want to share and keep us under time?
I want to let them know we're going to be talking about AI movies, and we're going to be asking you guys for a couple of suggestions as well. So if you got any, let us know. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to kick it off with our boy Stevie Spiels and the original AI, maybe a Stanley Kubrick movie, really, but who knows? Let us know what you thought about Jungle Cruise. We're on Twitter and Instagram at 24 Minutes of A24. We're also on YouTube where you can watch us talk about these. Thank you so much for being a supporter on the Patreon. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys are enjoying these. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Remember, it's never too late to make a movie with practical effects for less than $200 million. Just like to spread the truth when I can, you know? It's a good word.
I like it.